Hello all, this is JC3 from Is This Real? Do you want to start your own podcast? Then look no further than Buzzsprout.com. We here at Green Hour Media use Buzzsprout, and we love the team at Buzzsprout. They are all about helping you succeed. Buzzsprout gets your show listed in every major podcast platform. Follow the link in our show notes to let Buzzsprout know that we sent you. It gets you a $20 paid Amazon gift card if you sign up with a paid plan and helps support our show. Join us and over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout.com to get your message out to the world.
From the Keith Winsakale Studios in Paterson, New Jersey, Green Hour Media proudly presents Is This Real? Tonight, the 9/11 attacks. What happened? Was it real? Was it staged? We're going to find out. And now your host, JC3.
Welcome, everybody, to our 9/11 episode. Thank you, Dad, for that intro. Even though today is, well, we're recording on 9/9 and we're going to be posting on 9/12. This is our 9/11 episode, and we're going to be talking about 9/11 and the events of that day and whether or not those events are what they perceive to be. I'm your host, Joe, JC3, if you will. We have Dad, Big Joe over there. Say hello to everybody, Dad.
Hello, and welcome to the program.
Mr. West in the building.
Bush did 9/11.
Okay, we're just going to start it off right there. Right there. And then Roblox, you are back in the booth. Hi, Rhodey. We missed you.
Are you that excited that you actually fucked up my nickname?
I did.
All right, well, whatever. Yo, what's going on, everybody?
Are you happy to be back in the booth?
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
All right. Even though you were blackout drunk in Puerto Rico. But you know.
I wasn't blackout, all right?
Okay. So, 9/11. Big event that happened in all of our, all of our lives, whatever the hell you want to call that.
Lives.
Yes. Dad, you've been alive for a couple big events. You're that old.
Wow.
And
you could just feel the tension that he's like, wow.
Eric and I, that was our first, I think, besides, because I don't remember Columbine. Do you remember Columbine? No, we were like babies for Columbine.
Columbine was...
Do you remember Columbine?
Was Columbine the high school?
Yeah, where the guys climbed at the clock tower.
No, that wasn't the Columbine, asshole.
No?
That's D.C., no?
Apparently you have missed the big events.
Yes, I did.
I remember 9/11, though.
I do remember 9/11, too. So I'm going to go through the official timeline, hour, minute, to what happened that day. And then we're going to talk about what we remember.
Don't miss anything, because I'll call your ass out.
I'm going to be reading from what is right here. All right, that's it.
Fine.
At least I'm going to be try to read.
Well,
okay,
you're going to be trying to read.
Yes.
Gotcha.
All right. So at 8:00, 8:00 in the morning on September 11th, Tuesday, September 11th, President Bush receives his daily intelligence briefing. There is no mention in the report of Osama bin Laden or Al Qaeda. At 8:14. Mathematician and entrepreneur Daniel Lewin becomes the first victim of the attacks after being fatally stabbed by the hijacker. At 8:19, flight attendant Betty Ong becomes the first person to alert authorities to the hijackings. And those things happened on Flight 175. At 8:20, an accidental transmission is received from Flight 11, confirming suspicions that the flight had been hijacked. And the transmission says, nobody move, everything will be okay. If you try to make any moves, you'll endanger yourself and the airplane.
I am the captain now.
Just stay we're making jokes already. Just stay quiet. So 8:30 passes by, and then at 8:46 a.m., Flight 11 crashes into the north face of the North Tower. The FDNY Manhattan Fire Dispatch Office is immediately notified of the crash by firefighters investigating a gas leak nearby. At 8:49, the first report of an incident at World Trade Center crosses the AP Newswire, which would be Associate Press.
Associated Press.
Whatever. Moments later, numerous cable news outlets cut away from programming to cover the story. At 8:55, President Bush, who is visiting a Florida elementary school, is informed that a small twin-engine plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. 9 o'clock passes by. The 9:03, the Flight 175 crashes into the south face of the South Tower. Because cable news outlets covered the incident so quickly, millions of people witnessed the second plane striking the South Tower in real time. 9:05 a.m., President Bush is about to begin reading the pet goat to students when Chief of Staff Andrew Card interrupts the news of the second plane impact. He said a second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack, where Bush was actually reading the book upside down. But that's Bush himself.
Wait, what? He was reading a book upside down?
Yes, the book he was reading.
The book he was reading was a book. It was a children's book entitled My Pet Goat.
And it was upside down.
But he really wasn't reading it. It was a photo op, but the moron didn't realize it was upside down. But anyway, that's another story.
At 9:13, F-15 fighters leave military airspace near Long Island, bound for Manhattan. At 9:21, all bridges and tunnels into Manhattan are closed. At 9:26, At 9:26, the FAA bans takeoffs of civilian aircrafts. 9:30 passes. At 9:37, Flight 77 crashes into the western side of the Pentagon. At 9:41, the falling man photograph is taken. That's where, on the side of the thing. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. Eric, if you ever saw that photo.
People jumping out of the buildings?
Yeah, the one guy falling off the side of the building. There
were several that did that because they were above the impact, and they
weren't getting out.
They weren't able to access the staircase. Everything was still hot. There were some fires, not as much as they want to tell you, but there was some.
At 9:45, U.S. airspace is shut down. All operating aircrafts are ordered to land at the nearest airport. Evacuations take place at the Capitol Building and White House. At 9:57, both at the exact same times, apparently, President Bush leaves Sarasota, Florida on Air Force One, and passengers aboard Flight 93 fight back against the hijackers in an attempt to take control of the plane. At 9:59, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. The tower collapsed 56 minutes after impact of Flight 175. At 10:03, Flight 93 crashes in a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, after fighting between passengers and hijackers. The 9/11 Commission believed that Flight 93's target was either the Capitol Building or the White House in Washington, D.C. At 10:20, President Bush aboard...
Isn't that the same thing, the Capitol Building?
No, the Capitol Building and the White House are not the same thing. Okay. At 10:20, President Bush aboard Air Force One tells VP Cheney that he has authorized a shoot-down of aircrafts if necessary. At 10:28, the North Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. The tower collapsed 1 hour and 42 minutes after the impact of Flight 11. At 10:50, a portion of the Pentagon collapses due to fire. At 10:53, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld orders the U.S. military placed on DEFCON 3 for the first time since 1973's Yom Kippur War. At 11:02, Mayor Rudolph Giuliani urges the public to evacuate Lower Manhattan. And at 12:15, the airspace over the continuous United States is clear of all whatever the hell that word is. Contiguous. Yes, I said that correctly. United States is clear of all commercial and private flights. Civilian air traffic wouldn't resume for 3 days. Now, I know this doesn't have the Building 7 falling, and I don't know what time that was, Dad.
Excuse me, I didn't quite understand.
Building 7. World Trade Center Building 7? 6? 7? Which one was it?
It was Building 7.
Building 7 was the Solomon Brothers building.
Yeah, what time did that collapse?
I don't know. I know it collapsed around 5:45 that night.
It doesn't have that on this list.
The problem with that, I know we're not supposed to get into this, but you just can't help this at some point. The Solomon Brothers building was actually located between the Verizon building and the post office, right across the street. It fell in its own footprint. It had a small fire in it, and that was the only thing that was going on. However, that was also the same thing that building housed a lot of stuff for the FBI, like the evidence for the .com scandals that were going on at the time. A lot of other evidence that was going on at the time. There's no way it should have collapsed at all. We'll save that for the end of the show, for when we get to that point.
Yeah, never mind.
So that was the official timeline of at least the morning of 9/11.
I find it ironic that it's not in the official timeline.
Well, it's again. I guess they stopped it at. Well, I thought it was 1 o'clock in the morning, but it was only 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So they stopped it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's a very important part of this entire scenario.
Again, I'm just getting that from this website. It's visualcapitalist.com. So both the North Tower Flight 11 crashed between floors 93 and 99, and on the South Tower Flight 175 crashed between floors 77 and 85. So that's what, 6 or 7 floors, give or take,
like 10 story, like a story.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to talk about where our mindsets were. Now, me and Eric were both very young at this point. You were just starting high school, right, Roblox?
No,
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, Ryan. Hi, this is Sarah Palin.
Ryan, Donald Trump Jr.
Hogs to win, see you. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marines podcast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics.
if I'm correct, I think I was in 8th grade.
Around that time.
Yeah.
I think we were like first or second grade.
Well, I was in first grade. I know for a fact I was in first grade.
We were we were 6. Mm-hmm. Yeah, first grade.
I'll tell you what I remember from that day. I was in school, and it was just a normal day. And what I remember most about 9/11 is Sister Joanne brought us into the whatchamacallit,
the auditorium,
the gym, the auditorium, and we were all there. We brought our book bags and everything like that. And Father George was there, and he was just talking about how something happened in New York, something bad happened in New York, and we would be picked up by our parents, and we were all just waiting for our parents. Like, I didn't know anything. I remember Sister Joanne and how she looked. She was pale, and Father George looked worried, and all the teachers looked worried. But again, I'm 6 years old. Like, I didn't fucking know what was happening.
No word.
Like, I was just sitting there like, oh, okay, I'm going home early today. Like,
it's facts.
And then when I remember you picking us up, and I remember you were extremely worried. And then you were explaining that to Amanda and Anthony, and you guys were going to laugh at me. But when we got back home to Mama's house, the only thing I remember worrying about is getting snacks.
Yeah, it's funny because like me and you were like kind of on the same mindset as kids, because I remember being in class, and then a teacher saying, "Okay, class, the school's ending early today. Your parents are coming to pick you up." And then I remember my mom picking me up, and I went to school in Clifton, so we were on on a hill, and where you got to go get picked up from your parents, you had to go like up a little street, and then you just pretty much see all the skyline of New York. But from what I remember that day, like I remember like a lot of smoke coming from the city. Like I remember seeing a lot of fucking smoke.
Yeah, I remember seeing it from. I don't know if you guys have been in Mama's sun porch.
Never set foot in the house.
Have you were in the sun porch?
I think once.
But if you go into the sun porch on the back window, you could see the skyline kind of, especially during September because it was early September like now. And
it was
a
crystal clear day. I mean, there was no clouds in the sky.
But also the leaves were on the big tree over here. The big tree wasn't as big as it is now, and the leaves were kind of falling off. You could see the smoke in the sky.
I remember like being excited that I got home from school early and watching Tom and Jerry.
Yeah. Rhodey?
I don't know how any of you guys were excited. I was fucking terrified.
I was 6.
Yeah, I was 6 too, bro. Like, I didn't know what the fuck was happening.
Okay, first of all, let me finish my statement. Obviously, I can understand that because you guys are like, fuck it, I'm going home. That's not the case when you're 13 and you're in 8th grade and you're staring out the window of your history class. Literally. If you go to school 5, I believe it was, my history class, I was sitting towards the blackboard, and all I had to do was look left and look out the window, and there was nothing but just dark clouds just emanating from one spot. I didn't have a single fucking clue what was going on. I was just sitting there doing something. I can't remember what I was, but I remember the teacher. This is probably going to sound a little racist, but he was like an older Italian guy. Like, legit, to me, at least he seemed that way. And from what I remember, the next thing you know, we were just sitting there minding business doing work, and he got up and then just walked straight out the class. And then a couple of minutes later, he says, guys, your parents are here to pick you up, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I look out the window, and I see nothing but smoke coming from there. Because I don't know if you know this. From School 5 and the back of the building, you can see straight towards New York.
In Patterson?
Yeah, right here.
Mm-hmm.
By the laundromat?
No, right over here. Because School 5 is actually on a hill, and you could literally see.
It's right by Hinchcliffe Stadium.
Yeah.
Over on Maple Avenue over there.
Yeah.
And you see literally everything.
Yeah.
It's actually on Toto Ave.
Yeah, and mind you, I was in 8th grade, so at least for us, 8th grade classes were towards the top floor, which I believe was 3rd, maybe 4th floor. Mm. So just looking out, you can see the entire New York City like skyline of buildings and stuff like that.
Oh shit!
So, like I said, I was terrified. My father comes and actually picks me up, and I had no idea what was going on. That all I saw was smoke. Like I was completely lost. My father takes me home, and then I believe my mother picked up my sister, but I was home watching the TV, and I was just completely speechless because I had no idea what was going on. I saw the footage. I think I even vaguely remember seeing at one point the second building get hit. It's very vague. I don't really recall it like per se, but I think I might have seen it, and I just remember being terrified that day. That's literally all I can remember.
Yeah. What I remember that day, I was at work, and it's kind of still hard to think about this shit. But anyway, I remember my wife called, and she said, did you see what's going on in New York? I'm like, at that time we were listening to radio or tapes or discs or whatever. I said, no, I didn't. She goes, the Twin Towers are on fire. Or one of the towers they think it was hit by a plane. So I remember distinctly going over to the thing, and I'm telling the guys in the shop, and they said, put it on the news. We put the news on. At that point, you only had, a couple of news stations. So we put on CBS FM or whatever it was. And sure enough, there it was. And we're listening to it, and not even 5 minutes into listening to it, the second plane hit. And we were throwing around ideas about the first one. Well, it could be terrorism, because what happened in 1993, which was terrorism, but they tried to blow the building up. So we didn't really think much of it. But when the second plane hit, you could hear a pin drop in the shop. There were 7 of us standing around looking at each other. And what I remember from that day, it was almost like bang, bang, bang. Reports of bombs now, they thought there was bombs at the Capitol. Okay. Nobody knows for sure what's going on. The news reporters are all over the place. And I remember we were all really, really frightened. Now I'm thinking I got my kids in school and I got to get out of here. Because we don't, then to make a long story short, the Pentagon got hit. And then I remember I looked at my boss, and I looked at my best friend at the time, Carl. He was there, and I said, I said, Carl, I said, I got to go. I suggest you guys get out of here, too, because we don't know what's happening. You know, we could be under attack, and if I want to die, I want to die with my family. And all I remember is I went to him. I blew him a kiss. I said to him, I'm out of here. I got to go. Yeah. And I went down to turn on the radio. I'm calling my wife. She was working at the Wayne General at the time, so to get through to her was kind of tough. St. Joe's. Yeah, Wayne General, St. Joe's, whatever. Yeah. And I remember I got to the school, and Father George opened the door in tears. And then I lost it. And I'm like, he goes, take them home. Try to keep them away from the TV. He says, and just pray. I'm like, okay. So when I walked into my parents' house at the time. My father was up in arms. My mother was shaking. We settled in there, and then I remember basically arguing with my wife. They wouldn't let her leave because she's working in a hospital. I'm like, no, you're going to be leaving because if something's happening, I want us all together. And
now the reason for that is because Wayne General's on standby for any like backtrack.
Exactly,
New York, right?
You know, you're right, but it's nice that they're on standby, and it's nice that that's their job. But she wasn't a nurse. She was in administration. So I insisted that she came home, and then she called me back. She goes, they're letting us out, because I was on my way up there, and this wasn't going to fly with me. Anyway, they let us out, and then, that's what I remember from that day. But it was the most thing I remember from that day is one thing after another. And on time like that, you never get the right reports first. It's always something.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember from that day and that time, and moment in time.
All right, so we're going to take a short little break real quick, and when we get back, we're going to talk about the events in New York and little questions about the events in New York. So we'll be right back.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hello, nerds. Come listen to the History Nerds United podcast, and let's make history fun again. We interview today's best authors, whether they are established Pulitzer Prize winners or someone debuting their first book. Let us show you that history is not a boring class you took in high school, but a place where the best stories come from. And we don't just cover history. We also love to chat about true crime, biographies, memoirs, and so much more. So head on over to History Nerds United and let us introduce you to your new favorite book and learn the story behind the story.
History Nerds United.
Did you know there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand in every single beach on the planet? There are also a billion cups, but not like an Is This Real cup that you can get on www.greenarrowmedia.org.
And welcome back from our short little break. So we're going to get right into talking about the World Trade Center and Building 7. Obviously, building the North Building, the South Building, and Building 7, and a couple of other different little things that happened during that day in New York. So, Dad, you want to start us off? Because I know you have a lot in your mind. I know you have probably more time about talking about 9/11 than all three of us in the booth combined.
Well, what exactly would you like to know? What was in the buildings, or what would you now? You had the North Tower and you had the South Tower.
Yeah, but weren't they just like actual
they were
buildings?
They were office buildings.
Yes,
they held a lot of. And now this is where you're going to get into the conspiracy part of it.
You know what? Just go for it, and we'll completely go through all of it.
The buildings actually housed a lot of financial companies.
Like hedge funds and stuff?
Yeah, stuff like that. And, there was Morgan Stanley was there. Okay? There was a lot of other smaller ones, but there was a lot of, major ones as well. And what happens on something like that, all these hard drives that they had in these buildings seem to have gotten damaged. They were brought to places to fix, and they never were fixed. The FBI says that this never happened. These hard drives were never found. They were found. Okay, but that's another thing. That's for another day. The Solomon Brothers building, which was across the street, like I said earlier, between the Verizon Center and I forgot what the other one was. Anyway, this building housed the Office of Emergency Management for New York City, a bunker that Rudy Giuliani just built. Okay, it wasn't hit by anything. It wasn't hit by a plane. It wasn't hit by fire. It wasn't hit by nothing. It had a small fire, I think, on the third floor.
It was all debris from the towers itself, I
debris
believe.
from the towers. That's what they're telling you. Okay, but I got a question for you. On the north side, I believe it's the north side of the tower, across the street, you have a hotel. It's called the Millennium Hotel. Mm-hmm. Solid glass. One pane came out. So where the debris didn't break all that glass, but somehow the debris created a small fire in Building 7, and that collapsed later on in the day. However, there's a little bit of a funny story with that. The BBC had a live video around, I don't know, just about 20 minutes before the building collapsed, and they're reading on air, and you can look this up. They're telling everybody
right now.
They're telling everybody that Building 7 has just collapsed, when clearly in the background there's Building 7. It didn't collapse.
Okay, so as you know, we do.
So they're reading something that.
Yeah. So as we do in this show, I want to talk about how you know the conspiracy theory and people who try to debunk the conspiracy theory, because I love talking about that shit. So I have the BBC website right now talking about conspiracy theories about 9/11. They have that specific segment that you're talking about. He goes, the fact that the collapse of 7 World Trade Center was announced in a live report by BBC News correspondent Jane Stanley, while it was still visibly standing behind her, has been cited as by conspiracy theorists as evidence major media organizations were part of the inside plot. The Reuters news agency had mistakenly reported the collapse of the building, which was also picked up by CNN just before the live report. Reuters later issue a correction, but the clip's report continued to go viral in the days leading up to the 9/11 anniversary. So basically, it was a mistake that they said that they did. It wasn't planned. They said BBC. It was a mistake that it collapsed.
Okay. Are they saying that it collapsed? It was a mistake that the building collapsed?
No, they're saying that them reporting it was a mistake that it collapsed.
They mistakenly said it was Building 7 when Building 7 was still behind them.
But there no other buildings collapsed that night.
Yeah,
they were very specific when they said. I've seen the report many times. They're bullshitting you when they clearly said the Solomon Brothers building, Building 7, has collapsed, and it's right here. This is not a mistake.
So I'm going to put the photo up on the video, but that's the chick saying it. And it says the 47-story Solomon Brothers building close to the World Trade Center has also collapsed. That's World Trade Center 7 right there. And it's right behind her. They're saying basically it was a mistake that they put it up there.
I'm sorry, that's not a mistake. If someone had the time to write out that report and write out clearly,
it was on the lower third too.
What they were gonna say for that girl, what she was supposed to say, that wasn't no mistake, bro. I can just tell you right now, that ain't no mistake. We've done video production. You know that wasn't a mistake.
Oh, I know for a fact someone actually had to write it out there, and whoever. To me, it's fucking retarded for the BBC to even, Cajun, for even the BBC to do that, because as far as, we know in video production, you really would have to know your shit and actually look at the live video and see that Building 7 is standing right there, and why would you even put that up knowing
it makes no sense?
Why would you put that on a teleprompter for her to read if it's right there?
And even on
it's
even on the lower third though. It's not just the teleprompter. It's on the actual news program on the lower third, like where it says live broadcast.
Oh, where it says like breaking news and stuff like that?
Yeah, it says the 47-story Solomon Brothers building close to the World Trade Center has also collapsed. And it's literally right behind her.
So what other buildings were damaged?
Well, other buildings that were damaged, they had a hotel underneath it, and they were right under it. So when this thing does, because these buildings do collapse, it's not a case of debris is going everywhere. They're collapsing on these buildings. There was about 6 or whatever buildings underneath it, alongside of it. It was a huge complex.
Didn't you say there was a mint there too or something?
No, the mint was across the street. The U.S. Mint, not a mint, I'm sorry. The U.S. Treasury was across the street. You had the Verizon building, Solomon's Brothers building, the post office. Then across the street, I believe that's Vesey Street. I'm not sure. Across the street, they were the
Treasury.
The Treasury was right there, with the same underneath was the one that housed all the gold for all the countries.
I love all this shit.
Wasn't Bank of America right next to it too, or something like that?
No, the Deutsche Bank was right next to it too. We'll get to the Deutsche Bank in a little while.
I want to get back to Building 7 real quick because,
but not to cut you off, but none of those buildings got any damage from the debris.
No, just the one right in the middle that housed all the evidence and
all the important stuff.
All the important stuff. Somehow,
coincidentally,
yeah, but they won't tell you. They'll sit there and tell you all kinds of bullshit about that.
So,
but go ahead.
It says it was talking.
Now
about,
I'm fucking fired up.
now they're talking about Building 7 more. It says the collapse of World Trade Center 7, a 47-story skyscraper in the vicinity of the Twin Towers, has attracted many conspiracy theories, some of which were trending on major social networks on last year's 9/11 anniversary. This building's containing offices of the CIA, Department of Defense, and the Office of Emergency Management collapsed hours after Twin Towers without being hit by a plane or directly targeted. But in 2008, a 3-year investigation by the National Institute of Standards and Technology,
right, NIDS,
that does spell NIDS.
NIST.
It concluded it had collapsed because of intense and uncontrolled fire.
Bullshit.
Lasting for nearly 7 hours, started by debris from the fall of the nearby North
I don't
Tower.
care.
That's so. Hold up, bro. That's so much cap, bro. That's so much cap.
World Trade Center 7 was the first tower of its kind to collapse because of a fire. But in 2017, the Plasco Tower in the Iranian capital, Tehran, became the second.
Yeah, well, let's go a little further down the road. The Deutsche Bank, which was right there, later on, burned for an umpteen amount of time. And it was a steel structure, steel and cement. It never came down. So let's cut the bullshit. So hold on. On this day, you had 2 buildings, 110 stories apiece, decide to come down the first time ever. Then Building 7 gets hit by basically a firecracker, okay? And that comes down in its own footprint. Another one of these miracles. Another one of these coincidences that can only happen to us in the United States.
Well,
get the fuck out of here.
So let's move to the North and South Tower.
Pissed.
Because one of the major claims about the North and South Tower was that the jet fuel and the fires inside the building caused the collapse of the tower.
Bullshit. That doesn't make any type of sense.
Hold
right
on.
there, bro.
It said a claim widely shared online: jet fuel cannot melt steel beams, suggests the World Trade Center's twin towers were demolished by explosives. But according,
I know you're ready for this.
But according to an official report, the crashed planes considerably damaged support columns of both towers and dislodged fireproofing.
Bro, no.
Additionally, the fires reached up to 1,000 degrees Celsius in some areas, causing the steel beams to warp and the eventual collapse of the buildings. Wait.
They are on the 90-something fucking floor. It doesn't pancake on top of each other from that high.
Hold on. Wait a minute. So, again, NIST.
NIST or NIDS?
NIST.
N-I-S-T.
NIST.
The National Institute for Science and Technology.
They work for the government.
Aren't those the same people, wait, hold on. Aren't those the same people looking into the fucking Skinwalker Ranch?
That's NIDS.
NIDS.
Oh, they okay.
The National Institute of Standards and Technology concluded the accepted version was more than sufficient to explain the collapse of the buildings.
Fuck that.
NIST and many scientists refuse to debate conspiracy theorists because they feel it would give those theories unwarranted credibility.
Time out. When you say this, and this is what they say this with a straight face. Okay, they refuse to debate anybody else, but of course they do. Of course they do.
Bro, because they know that we right.
All right, you have college professors, emeritus at the colleges all through this country, pilots, engineers. You have all of these people that are telling you right to your face, this does not happen like this.
Construction demolition
Okay,
experts.
but but NIST is supposed to be the one that we're going to listen to
Well,
because they don't want to debate.
There's more.
Fuck you, NIST.
Well, there's more. Hold on.
And suck my dick.
As a result, NIST said that it did
Sorry,
not
Josh.
perform any tests for the residue of explosive compounds of any kind on the debris. They did not perform any.
So they're trying to tell me after thorough investigation and 3 years of investigative study that they did not test not a single ounce of soil or debris from that shit?
For explosive compounds.
That is, oh my.
Wait,
That's also bullshit, but go ahead.
Okay.
Soon after
Okay.
at least NIST didn't. I don't know if anybody else
I
did.
think him and I are going to have a fucking stroke tonight.
Soon after the day of the attacks, major media sources published that the towers had collapsed due to heat melting the steel. The Iranerists claim that the combustion temperature of jet fuel could not melt steel contributed to the belief that among skeptics that the towers would not have collapsed without external interference. The basic claim is false because the combustion temperature of kerosene, which is jet fuel, is in fact more than 500 degrees Celsius higher than the melting point of structural steel.
That's bullshit.
Which is 2,093 degrees Celsius versus less than 1,539 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so I just have this one question. If we're talking about a building, 200-something stories or whatever the F, how tall that shit is.
110.
Also close to 40 years old.
40 years old, for 110
that
stories.
were built, when they were built, they were designed to take the impact of a 747, the biggest plane of the day.
And hurricanes.
Okay, and hurricanes. So I don't want to hear about 40 years. Go ahead.
Bro, it just doesn't make any fucking sense because if it's hit from the 70th floor or something like that. Now, if everything that you're telling me right now, if all of that is really true, then that shit should have pancaked from the top of the building just to that floor for where that impact was. Maybe just a little bit more. But, bro, that shit went boof from the bottom. It started from the fucking bottom, bro.
I agree with you. And we'll get more into that video of the towers collapsing. I just want to talk about also when they did collapse. If they're saying that it melted and it basically bent the steels or
it warped
the steels, then the top of the towers would have went this way and fell and caused a lot more fucking damage in the area.
Like a timber tree?
Yeah, and just would have went whoo.
Okay. Just to clarify something here. The entire two buildings were pulverized. The concrete and steel were pulverized. Now listen, people out there, listen.
Pulverized.
Okay.
Noun.
Pulverized. Right.
Noun. It means to completely obliterate without any degree of evidence. Obliterate.
That does not happen when something's pancaking. If I drop this and it hits it, it might put a dent in it. Okay? Even if there's stupid fucking theory, and it is a theory that has not been proven, even if that was the case, you would have had large chunks of debris. But this did not happen. The concrete was pulverized. The steel was pulverized. Okay? So, I'm sorry, NIST, but you're full of shit.
I can't agree with that.
All right.
Joshua, you've been very quiet.
Very quiet. You're like me right now.
Because I don't have to say anything. They're saying everything for me. What more do you want me to say?
Oh, there's a lot more. There's a lot more.
I meant me specifically.
I want to get now again. This episode may take a little while to get through, and we apologize for the length, but there's a lot to cover. All right, so there's got to be us sitting here talking between very long break periods, but. Joshua, I do want to hear like your opinion on, because you're I know they're saying a lot, and this is the more animated side of Mr. West that we've gotten so far, and I'm really enjoying it. But
just makes your blood boil, man, because it's just like it's like they're just lying to your fucking face, and like motherfuckers is really like dumb. I'm sorry, but like motherfuckers is really dumb enough to really believe that shit, bro.
Well,
no offense to anybody out there that's a dumb motherfucker, but still though.
One thing.
Thanks, Eric. You just killed that.
One thing that I just want people to know, and I will explain more of this later, after we talk about all the shit. But as you entered, you said Bush did 9/11. That didn't happen that way, my friend. and I will explain that later.
What?
But that did not happen that way.
What? Okay.
But yeah, Brody, come on, say something.
Say something,
All
baby.
I can say is that it's really weird how they're trying to give you an official story and stuff like that of what happened when a lot of the footage was obviously live and everyone saw what happened. And yes, 747 is a really huge ass fucking plane. Matter of fact, I believe I was just on one this past week.
I don't think those 747 hit the towers though.
No,
it was they were smaller, right?
737,
757.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're still in the 7 range, so it's like it's still up there.
All sevens.
Yeah, regardless, they're planes with a good amount of passengers, and yes, those planes can be considered huge, but I really, really, really doubt that a plane colliding with a building like that could cause that much damage.
I can't. And I'll tell you why.
Proceed to make a building collapse from the bottom, which doesn't make sense to me.
And destroy another building.
Yeah,
several hours later.
Yeah, just the way it hit, everything like that. I could imagine there being a giant fucking hole in the side of both of those buildings if the planes hit. Well, they did hit.
Rest in peace to all the people.
Yes, definitely. Well, that goes without saying. We're not going to criticize the people that lost their lives. I mean, we saw live footage of people jumping for crying out loud, which was terrifying, to be honest. But just, I don't see it happening the way they say. Because even with this footage staring in your face, showing you what happened that day, it's been stuck in my brain ever since.
If there's one thing you're going to take out of all of this, follow this. An airplane is made out of lightweight aluminum. Okay?
Yeah.
The hardest thing on an airplane is the engines, which normally are made. The Rolls-Royce engines, and they're made out of titanium steel, which is basically indestructible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Isn't titanium like the titanium's like the hardest metal?
Exactly.
I thought the black box was the hardest thing on the plane.
No.
Titanium's the hardest metal.
One of the engines was found, I forgot which one it was found a couple blocks down the street. Now, I'm going to take this a little further. You had supposedly Muhammad Atta. You had the other guys that were driving the plane. Whatever you want to, whatever. Give them any name you want. These buildings were made of steel reinforced concrete.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of all this explosion, they're telling you the towers burned for this and they burned for that at an astronomical thing, and they wanted that on this day the jet fuel burned higher than ever and everything was destroyed in its path. Then how come they want you to believe a couple blocks down the street, somehow out of the same burning buildings and burning planes, Muhammad Atta's passport was found on the street? That's a fact.
That's the hijacker, one of the hijackers,
That's
right?
the hijacker for
Supposed
flight.
hijacker,
I believe it was flight 77. I'm not sure which one. Okay, so explain to me how buildings are being destroyed, fires are taking down concrete, this is happening, that's happening, but a paper passport goes through all of that, jumps out of his luggage, flies through the air, and winds up a couple of blocks on the street where somebody just happens to find it. Maybe the building should have been made out of that fucking same paper. Okay, that's
okay. So we are going to cut to a break in a couple minutes, but there are a couple things I do want to get past. So the black boxes, were they ever found?
The black boxes were mysteriously said that they were not found.
Wait, what are black boxes?
Black boxes is the recording of the flight. Everything that goes on with a flight is recorded in the black boxes. The black boxes protect the conversations. They record everything that goes on, the altitude, everything the plane does.
It's like a database.
It's a data thing, but they're held in black boxes, and if they got a beacon on them, that if they get lost in the water, they activate the beacon, and then they can find it. Okay. There's video footage of the FBI taking black boxes out on carts that they were found there, but the FBI denies this. They deny the video that shows them doing it. So, and then stupid people go, they must be right. It isn't the video. They're taking away Dunkin' Donuts boxes because they're made of paper. That's what's going on.
Not sponsored, by the way.
So, and the second thing, well, two more things I want to get by. We were talking about before the gold underneath the towers, I believe it was, right?
Right.
The gold went missing, right?
Truckloads of gold. And I don't know exactly how much, because the gold always seems to be mysteriously, we never have an exact amount. We have no idea what's going on. We don't know what's in Fort Knox. We don't know. They tell you this, they tell you that, but they don't go in there. They don't look at it.
It just reminds me of Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Exactly.
Die Hard. If you ever seen Die Hard with a Vengeance,
That's the third one, right?
yeah, the one with Sam Jackson.
No, I saw the one with what's it called, Jason Lee or something like that. Whatever.
You have to see
Jason
Die
Young
Hard
or
with a Vengeance, and it's actually
Live
very
Free or Die Hard. That's the one.
creepily similar to what is supposed to happen with 9/11. I mean, granted, it's a terrorist; it's different. Like there was nothing really happening in Die Hard with a Vengeance, but he basically made a diversion to bring out gold from underneath. I think it was the Twin Towers, wasn't it?
No, it was actually, I believe that it was the
bank district. The banking
it was
district.
on Wall Street, and it was down, and then they had to create a diversion so the gold could be stolen, kind of like what happened here.
Yeah, and it was very, very eerily similar.
Wow.
And the last thing I want to get to, at least with the New York area, because we can go on about New York for a while, and maybe more stuff we can cover on maybe our high point episodes or even stuff like that.
Yes. Tune into the Patreon, by the way.
When the towers collapsed,
All right.
and how you saw them pancaking, which obviously is very eerily similar to controlled demolitions. If you actually look at controlled demolitions of how these towers fell,
Or if you look at buildings falling.
buildings falling in controlled demolitions, people turn around and they suggest the bombs that were in the building, you could see them throughout the side of the building when they fall.
They're clearly there.
People say that, and I guess I'll be the whatever the hell you want to call it. People say that those are not bombs popping out; those are the floors hitting each other that are causing.
Okay, I'm going to explain.
It starts at the bottom, though.
I want to explain something very simple. Okay,
something could collapse, but there's also looks like, from what I remember, footage of look like actual explosions.
Oh no, I'm looking at the footage right now. So watch this, and I will play this on the thing. So this is, I believe, the North Tower falling, because the South Tower fell first, and it was hit last.
Right.
So the South Tower got hit last, but fell first. Doesn't make any sense. And then the North Tower burned like 40 minutes longer, I think it was.
20 minutes.
20 minutes longer, and then fell. So
well, Joey, it's because the steel beams were warping by the time.
So you see, it looks actually like something right at the bottom explodes because you see more fire, and then poof, poof.
There was one video taken by CNN, a widescreen thing, where there was actually an explosion caught. A giant puff of smoke was never replayed again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's what people want to know why.
You're talking from the South or North Tower?
I believe it was the North Tower.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the collapse of the North Tower right now, and I just explained to Josh, right at the bottom of where all the smoke is, you actually see like
a flash,
a flash of fire pop out, and then like it's all smoke on top, but just this one ball of flames just pop out right there.
Yeah, you see the problem.
That's what I mean.
The problem with this whole scenario about the collapse and the pancaking, and if like just like Eric said before, if it was going to collapse, boom, 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 it would have taken over 10 minutes to fall. Mm-hmm. It came down in 12 seconds. 110 stories comes down in 12 seconds. There's no way it collapsed like that because, again, there was no fires on the bottom. There was nothing was what was being heated up at the bottom.
No, I
the
agree.
only fires at the bottom was when Bill Rodriguez, who worked there for 20 years, said that he heard a loud explosion in the basement. Now, they went down and they figured that, well, let's go figure it out. When it was all said and done, they couldn't get near the basement for several weeks because of the molten steel. Molten steel does not happen with jet fuel. Okay, that building, molten steel happens with a chemical added to an explosion. It's called thermite, which is basically, I believe it's iron ore and aluminum, and it makes it burn at a higher temperature.
Like when you play Call of Duty, guys, and you throw the thermite grenade. Yeah. Think something like that.
And it'll last. The liquid metal, the molten metal, lasted for weeks. When they finally got down there, they looked at the columns, and the columns all were tested for thermite. All came back positive, and they were all cut on an angle. Now, that's very simple it's exactly what's done to buildings that you're trying to demolish. Okay, so what you're seeing with planes coming into the building and all this other shit doesn't work. And also, again, was there fires up on the top? Yes. Was it as bad as they say? No, because basically, when you see the smoke that was coming out, the smoke was what? Black. Oxygen-starved fire, which means the fire's going out. Most of the jet fuel was burned on impact. All right? This is a fact. This isn't something I'm just pulling out of the air. Okay, and steel will melt at 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, it'll be weakened at 28 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 hours.
2,800 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right. Jet fuel burns the most jet fuel can burn at is 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit, and because it all burned really quickly. It wasn't around.
It doesn't have time for it to like.
And 1,500 degrees, the towers collapsed less than 45 minutes to an hour after being hit.
That doesn't make sense.
None of it makes sense. None of it makes any sense. But the dumbass Americans bought into it, and they allowed, because NIST put an official stamp on it, it became the official story, and none of it's true. None of it.
All right.
So. That's just my.
So that's New York.
Although people did die, that is true.
Yeah,
of course people died. They killed them.
So to be completely clear here, we're not sitting here saying nobody died. We're not sitting here like last week. We're not saying there's actors or anything like that. What we're saying is we're just questioning the
event
official
itself.
Story and what.
The official story is a lie. Then I'm going to go right on record as saying it.
So we're gonna take a short little break, and then when we get back. We're going to cover the Pentagon, boys.
Oh, God.
Hey, how you doing? You like movies? We like movies. You like music? So do we. And books, and video games, and television. We are Multimedia Mafia, and we like to discuss all of those things. And we drop a new episode every single Wednesday. So come check us out, or a couple of guys from Jersey is going to pay you a visit.
And welcome back from our little break. Thank you, Eric. So, we're going to talk about the Pentagon and what happened in Washington, D.C. Now, mind you, there was supposed to be another incident that happened in Washington, D.C., but that plane landed in Pennsylvania. We'll talk about that later. But, so the Pentagon, with the conspiracy
Actually
theories,
landed in Cleveland first, but we'll go there. Go ahead.
We'll
get to that.
We'll get to that. We'll get into this whole conspiracy theory. So, the Pentagon obviously had it was Flight 77, and so the traumatic events of September 11th changed the lives of everyone in America, especially those working in the Defense Department. Terrorists proved that the very symbol of our national security, the Pentagon, was not, in fact, impenetrable. A hijacker flew American Airlines Flight 77 into the southwest corner.
And the hijacker's name is?
They don't have that up here.
Hani Hanjour.
Hani Hanjour?
Yes. And he couldn't land a Piper Cub in Florida when he was taking flight lessons, but somehow flew a 737 or a 757 into the Pentagon at about 8 feet. Okay.
A hijacker flew American Airlines Flight 77 into the southwest corner.
Well, he landed really successfully. If we go
of the Pentagon that day, killing 184 people. On board, all on board the plane, and many more inside the building, which was heavily damaged. The Pentagon has since been rebuilt, and in addition, the grounds have a National 9/11 Pentagon Memorial.
Rest in peace, all the people.
So basically, if you look at anything that has to do with the Pentagon that day.
If you look at the only video.
Oh yeah, there was only one video that was taken that day.
In
the Pentagon.
Can I just say?
Rant it, Wes.
Can I
Rant
just,
it.
can
Go.
I just say,
Go to Wes.
Can I
Go
just
with it.
say, how in the fuck do you only have one video
And a very bad security video.
One video coming across the street from a fucking gas station.
I thought that was an ATM. Wasn't it an ATM? No, it was a gas station.
He's close. He's close. But the one video, the official video that they got, the one can you hear me? Because I can't hear myself.
It's probably the headphones.
All right.
I can hear you fine.
The one video that he's talking about was confiscated by the FBI moments after.
Yeah, the I know the gas station video.
Okay.
Was.
The one he's talking about, you talk about the official one that you see the thing coming flying through.
You see the thing coming at like fucking
That's not from
5,
the gas
6 feet
station.
or something?
That's from the gate. That's from
The
one
gate,
of the gates.
not the ATM.
Okay.
Well, there was one from a gas station that had a video too.
Well, no, that one
We
was,
never saw that.
Yeah, we never saw that.
never-
That was
it
confiscated.
It was taken by the FBI moments after this happened.
Confiscated. There we go.
Fuck. Okay, so you're trying to tell me that the only fucking video in one of the most highly secured fucking buildings in the fucking world, not one fucking camera was working in that damn day?
I love this kid.
Not one fucking camera
this
was
kid.
working that damn day, bro? Really? And then the only video that you happen to get, I gotta take that because I need that. Give me that.
What
Give me
pisses
that.
me off about the official video, it's not even a video. It's more just like a couple pictures in a frame. It's like stop motion.
It doesn't show you a plane. It shows you like a, I don't know, missile maybe? Oh, I said it.
All right, so
So
I'm back on the BBC website, and it talks about the the Pentagon. So it says some online conspiracy theorists. I love that word.
Okay. Yeah.
Suggest U.S. missiles were fired at the Pentagon as part of a government plot, and left the hole in the building and that the hole in the building was too small to have been caused by a passenger plane.
Yes.
But a member of the American Society of Civil Engineers told Popular Mechanics magazine the size and the shape of the hole was due to one wing of the Boeing 77 hitting the ground and the other being severed on impact with the building.
All right, I gotta
Where are the fucking plane parts?
I got to say something.
Where are the fucking plane parts?
He's right. I'm going to give you a little insight into what they didn't count on was photos. Okay. Now, I forgot the guy who did it, but I believe he was a French journalist. He actually obtained photos of the building before the collapse. There was a 15-foot hole. Okay. Now, even if this moron from whatever was right about that, okay, you would have had one of the wings would have crashed through the thing. It didn't happen. The only time the hole became elongated is when the building collapsed.
Yes.
Okay. Now, having said all of this, the clearest piece of evidence we have is from a reporter by the name of Jamie McIntyre. When he reported live that day, he was telling everybody on CNN, and you can look this up, he said to everybody, I don't see any evidence of a plane other than maybe a small wheel, or there's no luggage, there's no people. You would have had bodies all over the place. You would have had, like I said, it was a lightweight aluminum, and lightweight aluminum is not going to penetrate the 6 rings of a steel reinforced. It's not going to happen.
I think it was 4 rings.
Whatever. It would never have done that.
I mean, maybe with the momentum and the speed of it going.
It would have collapsed.
No?
The aluminum would have collapsed.
Oh, yeah, no, it would have just...
You could literally...
But it would like a soda can
drive
just
that
crushed
into a
it.
building. I could drive it inside my house, and it's still ain't. It's going to pancake.
My question is that okay? So the Pentagon, if I'm looking correctly, is next to is a highway, right?
Oh,
correct.
Quick question. Before you keep going, can you find out if anybody in the Pentagon actually got hurt that on?
Yeah, they said a couple people. There's 184 people killed. Everybody on board the plane died, obviously, and many more inside the building. They didn't give me a number how many more inside the building died. They just know a total of 184 people.
And it's funny because that part of the building was just renovated. And now there's also photos of, even after it collapsed or whatever, there's desks wide open. You could see the desk with video monitors on them. If this was such a tragic, I don't know.
Major impact.
You wouldn't have had wooden desks sitting there. Okay.
But getting back to what I was saying, so what I've never heard, because you hear reports, eyewitness reports of everywhere in, New York, and then even in Shanksville in Pennsylvania, you hear those reports of people hearing stuff. I've never heard an eyewitness report from the Pentagon.
Yeah, there have been.
I mean, at least I haven't read any.
No, there's been people that have said, "Well, I was stuck in traffic and I saw a plane hit low or whatever." You have to take them into consideration them as well. In a moment like that, you don't know what the fuck's flying over your head. Now, if it's a plane, it's pretty memorable. You're gonna remember that. However, who are these people? I mean, I could give you a laundry list of people at 9/11 at the World Trade Center that said they saw a blue plane with no windows and strange markings on it.
Yeah, that's another theory that I've
okay,
heard too.
So
and of course the box that's under the plane or the hub.
Well,
that
we'll
was
get
under
to
the
that.
plane.
We'll get to that. Well, I just want to make my point about J.B. McIntyre. When he said, I don't see anything here. I don't know what they're saying. There's a plane. There's no evidence of a plane. Flash forward 15, 20 years on the anniversary of it, when they finally officially released that video that you were talking about. They interviewed him again, and he goes, well, you got to understand, I was there that day, and I saw the body parts, the seats. I saw the engines around, laying scattered. The debris field was amazing. Well, wait a minute, Jamie. On your report on 9/11, the moment it happened, you said there was nothing around you. Now, 15 years later, to try to push this video down people's throats, now you're going to tell us, oh, wait a minute, there was stuff there?
They MK Ultra'd that motherfucker,
okay,
bro.
So at some point, either initially he was lying, or later on he was lying. But what's clear is one of them he was lying. So again, he's working for CNN, which does nothing but lie anyway. So that's the clearest part of a piece of evidence that you're going to get from this entire fucking day.
Little fun little tidbit here, and you guys can actually do this yourself if you want to. I'm looking through pictures of conspiracy theory things for 9/11 right now, or at least the Pentagon. And there's one photo of the plane, the Boeing 77. I think you've seen this in one of the videos we watched before, and trying to fit it into the hole. It's a black and white photo. So I clicked that photo just to go to the actual website itself. What comes up...
They 404'd it.
We are currently experiencing issues affecting the citation functionality. Currently copyable citations aren't working, but you can still export to other sites in text files. We're sorry for the interruption for your research and are working on resolving the issue as quickly as we can. Mm-hmm. And then there's a whole citation, I guess you would call this, about what conspiracy theorist is and what the general definition of a conspiracy theory.
We're not going to show you what you came here to see, but we're just going to tell you that you're a kook.
So that's
fuck
like
you.
It's very like there's also pictures of the plane with the hub on it. And they just have. I
feel like honestly, like that's just like flat out illegal and shit. Because like, why the fuck are you hiding evidence and truth from something that if is allegedly a terrorist attack? Why is it that you're working so hard to cover up so many loose ends?
Well, because it's just like
diversion.
It's just like what Dad said at the beginning of the season. The bigger the event, the more people will believe that whatever you tell them.
People are always ready to give up a little bit of their freedom for the illusion of security. In other words...
Oh, look, coronavirus.
Here's the deal. You know what? You guys do whatever you got to do, but just protect me. I don't care. I'll sit in the house. I don't care. I'll do whatever you tell me because you're the government. So, really?
I'll eat big blocks of cheese.
Okay.
What?
Please, stop. You know what? I don't want to get off on a rant here, but that's basically what's happening. Go ahead,
I'm going to
Joe.
do what I said before, Joshua.
Don't look at me.
Joshua's very quiet and tired tonight.
Yeah, this is like you got
Puerto Rico drained him.
Yeah, he's
really did, man.
He's ready for sleep.
He needs another mojito.
The most animated episode of our entire career,
Yeah.
And he's like, I just want to go to bed. What the fuck's the difference? It's
he just
over
came
with.
here to hit the space bar a couple times. That's it.
That's pretty much it.
I'm over here bouncing off the walls and shit.
Like Eric stole the energy. I'm just letting him run with it. I don't know how, but he has all the energy. Fuck it, let him run. No, for me, my biggest thing, at least with the Pentagon, is that I've always seen, and actually I think you can see it right there, Joey. One of the small pictures of what looks like is the hole that originally the fucking plane made. No, right there, under that to the right.
Yeah,
that
this
one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but why does that seem like a really small hole compared to what an actual plane could or allegedly would?
Because a missile went through that plane. Missile went through there.
My question: how big was the hole again?
15 feet.
15 feet.
Now let's analyze what was in that building. That part of the building.
Wait. You're just trying to tell me that this hole is the size of probably like this garage?
Not even
this half of the garage.
This is 9 foot across. So the middle of the garage, and they're trying to tell you 757 went through that.
Wingspan and all.
But wait a minute, the rabbit hole gets deeper. Okay, this part of the building actually had evidence.
Get the fuck out of here, bro!
Financial evidence, financial records of the Pentagon's activities. Mm-hmm. Look this up on your computer. On September 10th, Donald Rumsfeld got up and in an interview, or actually a press conference. He was the Secretary of Defense. So he would know where all the money's going. He's like, we can't account for, I think it was like $1.3 billion.
Goddamn.
We have no idea where it is. And then the next day, the part of the building that would house all those records somehow gets hit. That's a fact, Jack.
I think he has the video, not the video, right?
The actual interview?
The course, or you can't see it?
I don't think I can. I don't know.
What did it
I
say
wonder
at the top?
why.
Hold on. What context of September 10th, 2001, Defense Secretary Rumsfeld announced Defense Department cannot track
2.3 trillion in transactions.
Yeah,
amazing, isn't it?
Damn.
But then the part of the building that was just renovated. Somehow, these terrorists are so intelligent, they picked that side with all the fucking financial tracking, whatever the fuck I want to say, I can't even say it. Transaction in that motherfucking thing. Come on now.
And
Come
what
on.
pisses me off about this whole
And
thing.
Bugs Bunny's real, okay? Get the fuck out of here with this whole thing.
Hey.
This whole story's a joke.
What pisses me off about this whole thing is, and we're going to get into the Pennsylvania plane and the audio recordings that they have from that plane, which are very fucking weird sounding. But what pisses me off about this whole thing is these guys apparently took over these planes with, I believe they said box cutters?
Box cutters and some knives, yes.
Yeah. And some knives.
Yeah. It's kind of like that plane that was taken out of, and it flew out of JFK with the Sully guy on it.
Yeah.
$1 million aircraft taken out by a pigeon.
It was a goose, all right?
I don't give a fuck what it was. Okay?
All I'm saying is they said...
Goose.
They
Shout
came
out to all
on.
The gooses.
No, fuck geese, bro. I hate them motherfuckers.
You know why?
They always shitting by my
You know
apartment,
why?
and
They're
I almost
Canadian.
always step on them. Fuck geese.
So basically, these motherfuckers got onto the plane and said, "We are taking the plane now."
Look at me. I am the captain now.
With a box cutter and knives.
Yeah.
And you try to tell me that a whole crowd of people. I'm sorry, but not.
It's not even a whole crowd of people.
Not to disrespect, but nobody.
Well,
said,
this is in general.
Bro.
We're still going to talk about more about the Pentagon. I'm just.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I know there's still.
Let me cut that off. Let me not be disrespectful. Rest in peace to all the people that was on them planes.
I have a, and we'll get to that in a second. I have Flight 93 has a lot of questions about it.
That's the Pennsylvania one, right?
Yeah. That's when the debris field of 10 miles long, but somehow it crashed at Shanksville.
We'll talk about that after our third break. But continue.
Well, my point is the bullet points of this Pentagon thing. Just like Eric said, you can go to any Walmart in the entire world, and you have 30 cameras in the parking lot. They can watch you. You can't even piss at your door by your car because they will catch you.
I can't even pick my nose, bro.
Okay.
This is 2001, so you're talking about the new millennium, so you're talking about more of the digital age. Internet has taken off, and internet is, obviously...
The Pentagon is the most secure building in the world.
Besides the White House.
They have more than one camera. If you want to prove to me that it was a 757 that hit the Pentagon, show me. Don't show me a little blurb. It looks like a fucking missile hitting the Pentagon. Because I don't believe you.
Well, yeah, I mean...
You're lying.
What pisses me off about the Pentagon incident too is that one blurb that actually says, "Well, that's the plane." A plane would not have fire coming out the end of it, of the ass of it. And if you look at that photo of that plane, supposedly, there's red shit coming out of it.
Hani Hanjour couldn't pass. He was supposedly the pilot. He could not pass a flight test in Florida. He couldn't land the fucking plane. And it was a Piper Cub. Somehow, this nitwit drove a 757 at about, 3 feet off the ground, which basically any pilot will tell you is physically impossible to do because of the drag on the ground.
Yeah, no, trust me. And you would see,
and he did it with uncanny accuracy.
You would also see on the field in front of it.
It was the adrenaline,
marks.
Bro. Come on.
Oh yeah, okay. Adrenaline.
You would see the marks of the plane.
You'd find the plane. There's no evidence of a plane.
There was no evidence of
There's
a plane.
nothing. They had one fucking little engine that came from a different plane.
And they're also saying with the
there's no luggage like how Pop
said. The first hole before it collapsed.
Right.
They would say that the tail of the plane would have not, at least if you sit and look, it would have covered over the actual building itself.
Right. Exactly.
It wouldn't have been an actual hole like this. Right. It would have been what you saw as far as the building collapsed itself. But all that, like I would guess you call it the ceiling on top that collapsed afterwards, that would have been gone, and you would have actually had a
clear shot.
A clear shot if a plane would have.
The bottom line again with the Pentagon is no evidence, none, no video. No luggage, no people, no seats, no parts of the plane. And why did they take the Army, and you can look this up, all of you, why did the Army or whoever was there take a black box with a tarp over it and was escorting it off the field? What was in that? Why don't you tell us?
My personal question would be that if these quote unquote experts say that it was the wing that went into that, how is it that it was the wing when in that video of the gate that they show you, it just goes showing you clear as day of it just going floop poof straight into it?
There was no wing. I want to know what was in that thing that they were taking.
Apparently, according to this, it was one engine found, but it was a 3-foot engine. It was not a 757 engine.
That is not a Rolls Royce engine.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It said
a 3-foot engine.
It said it looked more close to a Global Hawk engine.
That's a missile.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it says hull before collapse is just 22 feet wide. Wingspan of 757 is 125 feet.
But it was 85 foot high.
Why did the FBI confiscate all other videos of the crash? And what is the covered object swiftly carried away from the site? It was a blue tarp covered by, I would guess, field agents for the Pentagon. And nobody knows about any of this shit.
Okay.
And apparently
somebody does. We just don't.
So besides the gate footage, there was also 3 other cameras on that side of the building. One right next to the crash site, one at one corner, and the other at the other corner.
Why weren't they? Where's the video?
No videos.
Amazing, huh?
August 2006, they replaced one of the cameras in the same location.
Just in case it might happen again.
They put it in the exact location that the plane apparently hit. But yeah, and it went, if I'm corrected, this looks about 3 rings in. Which, I'm sorry, a plane would not go 3 rings in. It's just, there's too many questions for the Pentagon. I think there's more questions for the Pentagon than there is for the Twin Towers.
I disagree. I think there's many, many more for the Twin Towers because you have...
But as far as the evidence, like
questions,
but if you sit there and actually look at it, compare the 2 events, for at least like besides if you take away Building 7, if you just look at the Twin Towers itself, and if you have somebody like the Americans that they do, it'll be like, all right, 2 terrorist attacks happen, 2 planes were taken over, crashed into the buildings, and both buildings fell.
I got another question for you. Getting back to the Trade Center. when there's a crime, the police put tape around the crime, and then they analyze the crime, and then they send it to forensics or whatever. Why did we ship all the steel to China that very night? Why were we backing trucks up, taking it to the airport, housing it in the airport so nobody can get near it, and then shipping it over to China to be melted down? That's a fact. That's not something that I'm just pulling out of the air again. It's not. So answer these questions. Again, we're coming out with questions, but they haven't answered them. Now, could it be that the Pentagon happened as a distraction to get your mind off of what just happened earlier in the day, so you're not really looking at it? You're panicking, so you're not understanding what's going on. But so now all of a sudden you're looking this way? Could that have been a possibility as well? I don't know.
I mean, like I said, to me, there's, at least for me, like if you sit there and you take conspiracy out of it and you look at both events separately, I would sit there and say something looks a lot weirder for the Pentagon than it did for for the Twin Towers. As long as, like, if you just take, because to me it's a lot bigger for the Twin Towers.
But don't take the word conspiracy out, because something of this magnitude did not happen by one guy doing it alone.
No, I
two guys do it. It's a conspiracy, and it's not a conspiracy. It basically, it isn't the way they want you to believe it. It's actually what really happened.
No, I know. But does anybody else have anything else to add about the Pentagon?
No, we pretty much covered it. Basically, the questions are there.
Yeah, and so we're gonna take another short little break, and we'll be right back and talk about Pennsylvania. Are you looking for a vinyl LP or cassette tape, 45 RPM? If so, you've come to the right place. Golden Spins. We have thousands of titles in stock and ready to ship. Call us at 862-336-2275 or go to our store at discogs.com/seller/goldenspins/profile. We can find whatever you may need. We proudly accept PayPal and every major credit card. And welcome back from our third break. This is probably going to be our longest episode, and most breaks we've actually used inside an episode so far.
And is this real history?
Yes. Just to mark it down. So, we just got done talking about the Pentagon, but what I do want to add a little tidbit, your word, to the to just that Pentagon segment. If we were talking about the impact hole at the beginning of, which would be Ring E, which is the outermost building of the Pentagon. So it impacted Ring E, D, and then C. And C is where you have the exit impact. The exit hole, it's just a hole, and it did not collapse. So when you look at the exit ring, or the exit hole for the C ring, it is literally like 15 feet wide. That's it.
That's not big enough for an airplane.
No, it's not. And there's no debris. You don't see no nose of an airplane or anything like that. Apparently, it was just pulverized. Completely
pulverized to existence. Nice.
So, but now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about probably, in my opinion, the most interesting flight of 9/11, besides the Pentagon, because there's a lot of questions for United Airlines Flight 93, a lot. So, it was a domestic scheduled passenger flight that was hijacked by 4 Al-Qaeda terrorist members on board as part of the 9/11 attacks. It crashed into a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. Following an attempt by the passengers and crew to regain control of the plane, all 44 people on board were killed, including the 4 hijackers. The aircraft involved a Boeing 757-222, was flying United Airlines' daily schedule morning from Newark Airport to San Francisco Airport, San Francisco International, California. The hijackers stormed the aircraft's cockpit 46 minutes after takeoff. The captain and the first official struggled with the hijackers, which was transmitted to air traffic control. Ziad Jarrah, I believe I pronounced his name correctly, who was trained as a pilot, took control of the aircraft and diverted it back towards the East Coast in the direction of Washington, D.C., the U.S. Capitol, apparently, because they know that, everyone died, but they know it was going after the U.S. Capitol. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and Ramzi bin al-Shib, considered principal instigators of the attacks, have claimed that the intended target was the U.S. Capitol building. After the hijacks took control of the plane, the pilots may have taken measures such as deactivating the autopilot in order to hinder the hijackers. Several passengers and flight attendants learned from phone calls that suicidal attacks have already been made by hijacked airlines on the World Trade Center in New York and the Pentagon. Rather than cede control of the plane, many of the passengers then attempted to retake the plane from the hijackers. During the struggle, the hijackers deliberately crashed the plane into a field near a reclaimed strip mine in Stony Creek Township near Indian Lake in Shanksville, about 60 miles southeast of Pittsburgh and 130 miles northwest of Washington, D.C. A few people witnessed the impact from the ground, and news agencies began reporting the event within an hour. Of the four aircrafts hijacked on September 11th, the others were Flight 11, Flight 175, Flight 77. 93 was the only aircraft that did not reach its hijackers' intended target. A temporary memorial was built near the crash site soon after the attacks. Construction of a permanent Flight 93 National Memorial was dedicated on September 10th, 2011, and a concrete and glass visitor center situated over a hill overlooking the site was opened exactly 4 years later. So, gentlemen, what do we have for this segment? I'll give it off to you, Dad. What are your questions?
My questions. Well, I got a couple concerns. Number one, this flight left from Newark. Okay, it was headed for San Francisco. Excuse me for my booger. If somehow it flew to Cleveland and then turned around and landed in Shanksville, which is the southwestern part of the state. The official report was, that's exactly what the official report was. It was taken down. Let's roll. The hijackers were taken over by the passengers. Whatever. Books were made, movies were made. Now my question to you is very simple. Earlier in the day, this flight, when it went to Cleveland, it was reported that it landed at the Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, was taken to a back hangar, and then was taken off again. And I'm going to read to you this was a story that was it was on TV, and I got the web. It was produced by a girl by the name of Liz Foreman. She worked for she reported Channel 9 News at 11:43:57 a.m. Don't try finding it. You'll never find the original. It's already been taken down. Okay. A Boeing 767 out of Boston made an emergency landing Tuesday at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport due to concerns that it may have a bomb aboard, said Mayor Michael R. White. White said the plane had been moved to a secure area of the airport and was evacuated. United identified the plane as Flight 93. The airline did say how many people were aboard the flight. United said it was also deeply concerned about another flight, Flight 175, a Boeing 767, which was bound from Boston to L.A. On behalf of the airline, CEO James Goodwin, the thoughts of everyone United and the passengers or crew of these flights, our prayers are with everybody. United is working with all relevant authorities, including the FBI, to obtain further information on these flights. Now, how does an airport get the number of the plane and correct? You have to identify that plane has to identify itself when it's landing. So how did we change it to a Delta flight later on? And why did they take this plane that supposedly landed to a secure part of the airport. Doesn't say anything about anybody boarding the plane looking for bombs. It clearly had people on board. They left from Newark. Those people were never found at the impact site in Shanksville. Could it be that, and I'm gonna say it, I don't give a shit who likes it or not, could it be that whoever orchestrated this took the people off the plane?
Change their identities?
No.
I don't think that's going with that. I think he's saying they took them off the plane in the back of the
These
building
are all people who...
and popped them.
These are all people who knew. They were witnesses. And maybe then flew this plane back towards the... headed for... Washington, supposedly. It was on a trajectory to get there. Yeah, but then maybe it was... At that point, maybe we had to have collateral damage and we shot it at it. Now, maybe those people are still on board. I don't know. But clearly there was people on board and we don't know what happened to them. They weren't found in the debris field in Shanksville.
All of them died.
All of them anybody who was on that plane was going to die.
Rest in peace.
But the problem I have with that, too, also, is you had a debris field of 6 miles. If I'm going to crash here, the debris field is going to be here, not 6 miles from here. In my opinion, I believe that plane was shot out of the air by either a military plane. It had to be.
Well,
my biggest question would be, how long was it in flight before it got hijacked?
So
I'm not sure.
So
40 minutes, an hour or so.
So the hijacking began at 9:28 a.m. By this time, Flight 11 and Flight 175 had already crashed into the World Trade Center. Was within 9 minutes of and 77 was within 9 minutes of striking the Pentagon. The hijackers on those flights had waited no more than 30 minutes to commandeer the aircraft.
Okay.
Most likely striking after the seatbelt sign had been turned on.
Right there. So the plane was in the air for no more than 30 minutes.
Well, they're saying those planes, the other planes, not this one.
The 93, the Flight 93 one, right?
No. They're saying that. So the plane took off.
No, yeah, because I just want to know from when it took off from Newark and when they started hijacking that plane. It hadn't been no more than an hour since that plane was in the air, right?
Right.
The hijackers stormed the aircraft's cockpit 46 minutes after takeoff.
Okay. Can you show me that map or the flight trajectory of it one more time?
Yeah, so...
Okay. So, an hour...
So basically...
an hour from here, them shits go like, what, 500 miles an hour?
Okay. I'll give you... I know this for a fact. My grandmother used to leave Newark and go right here.
Yeah, because my girl was from Erie, so and Erie's like up here.
Okay.
How long did it take Grandma?
An hour and 5 minutes, and that was 1973.
So 46 minutes from Newark to Cleveland.
Puts her somewhere over here.
In the middle of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way.
Okay.
You can get to Florida in 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how long my trip was when I went to Florida, and that was back in 2006.
Okay. So So from all that, what you're telling me, that plane was in the air for no more than an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that it goes all the way to Cleveland before it turns right there to then start going to Washington D.C.? If Washington D.C. was the intended target from the second that they hijacked that plane, why did that plane go all the way out to fucking Cleveland before it made that turn?
Because maybe, just maybe, they needed to show that the plane landed.
Because look in the flight trajectory, it shows clear as day. It goes from Jersey, goes all the way through Pennsylvania.
It's like a
straight line through Pennsylvania, and then it starts to turn and loop, literally right where Cleveland is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know. I'm looking at that right now. But what's more interesting to me, though, is they have...
Why wouldn't they... If they really did intend to hijack... or if they did hijack that plane and they were going for Washington, D.C., why is it that they're going all the way west when they should have just went south straight the entire time? And they would have... and then from an hour into that flight, they would have hit that. Again, if that is what they are saying was
like
their
they said,
intentions.
they said the evidence is that they attacked the pilots at least 9:28, 9:30. So at 9:28, 9:30, both World Trade Centers have crashed already, and Flight 77 was 9 minutes within striking the Pentagon. So it would take, if they're going at 46 minutes out already, it would have taken them another 46 minutes to get back to the Pentagon. You're talking about an hour after the Pentagon was hit.
Yeah, but I don't think they're headed for the Pentagon.
No, they were apparently heading for the U.S.
The Capitol or the White House,
yeah,
or somewhere. I got a question that we still haven't. Go back to Flight 175. No, I'm sorry, Flight 77.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that supposedly hit
the Pentagon. Yeah.
Okay. If, and all indications are that this is not a plane that hit the Pentagon, where's Flight 77?
Oh, I don't know. That's something you would have to dig deep and find out.
Well, later on that day, the Air Force reported that there was planes flying all over the place over the ocean. And I don't exactly recall what they said, but I know that they were concerned about a plane that was flying without a transponder on or whatever. So could it be that the people, when Flight 77 left, they ditched that plane into the ocean and then shot a missile into the Pentagon? I know we're not on the Pentagon, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Because if you're saying that a missile hit the Pentagon, then you have to also say something happened to Flight 77.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because on that timeline that I was reading at the beginning of the show, it said the airspace basically over the United States is clear of all commercial and private flights.
Right.
Yeah, so there's not supposed to be anything in the air.
But over the United States.
But, and it's a big but, I believe it was part of bin Laden's family was allowed to leave later the day in Boston. They left from Boston. You can look that up.
Yes, I remember hearing that. Yes.
Okay, they were allowed to fly. The only flight being allowed to. Now, why would you let a suspected terrorist family leave the country when the rest of us in our own country can't fly?
This doesn't make any type of sense.
None of this. How many times have you said that tonight? None of it makes any sense, Eric.
I want to get back to the Flight 93.
Bin Laden was a CIA agent.
He was a CIA agent. His Bin Laden's code name was Jeff Osman, OSSMAN, of the OSS, Office of Strategic Services.
Can I get back to Flight 93?
Just wanted to say that.
So the major thing about Flight 93, among most part from any of the flights that day, were the cockpit transmissions and recordings, and the same thing with the passengers' phone and the crew phone calls, which are very suspicious. And I have all of them here. So apparently at 9:28, the aircraft made a communication to the Cleveland controller and the pilots of the aircraft in the vicinity of unintelligible sounds of possible screaming or struggle. A Cleveland air traffic controller replied, and we don't have that person's name, replied, "Someone call Cleveland," but received no reply. 35 seconds later, the aircraft made another transmission. In both calls, a man was shouting, "Mayday, Mayday, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here." When Melody Homer and Sandy Dahl, Jason Dahl's wife, listened to the tape, Melody identified First Officer Leroy Homer as the man who was shouting. The flight dropped 685 feet in a half minute before the hijackers managed to stabilize the aircraft. On the four aircraft hijacked, Flight 93 was the only aircraft that broadcast a distress call. It is likely that because the pilots have been warned of the World Trade Center hijackings and to beware of a cockpit intrusion. When they came under attack, they may have purposely keyed the microphone so the struggle might be overheard by the air traffic control. Cleveland Center air traffic controller John Worth believed it was not just a call for help, but a warning as well. And then they have the actual recordings being played here. If we can play them in the episode. I don't know if you want to edit that in. No, he doesn't want to edit that in. So the cockpit voice recorder began recording the final 30 minutes of Flight 93. At this moment, it recorded Jarrah announcing, ladies and gentlemen, hear the captain. Please sit down. Keep remaining seating. Now, that's not me wording. That's actual road in the thing. Keep remaining seating. We have a bomb on board, so sit. That is the most, to me at least, calm hijacker I've ever heard of. Please sit.
What about the phone calls? You had. Okay.
I'll get to those because there's more cockpit recordings. And then apparently the commission believed Jarrah tried to make an announcement to the passengers, but pressed the wrong button, sending the message to Cleveland controllers. To me, that's fucking funny.
I pressed the wrong button.
So he alerted his own shit. Muhammad Atta made the same error on Flight 11.
They both stupid.
The controller...
That's why they didn't pass flight school.
The controller understood the transmission but responded, calling Cleveland Center, "You're unreadable, say again slowly." The flight recordings indicate that a wounded man, believed to be Jason Dahl, was moaning in the cockpit. The man pleaded no more or no repeatedly as the hijackers shouted at him to sit down and stop touching something. Sandy believes that Dahl took actions to interfere with the hijackers, including possibly disengaging the autopilot and rerouting the plane's radio frequencies so that Jarrah's attempt to communicate with the passengers were instead transmitted to air traffic controllers. So, see, that's two stories there. You got that, right? So someone said he made a mistake by pressing another different button. But now someone's saying that Jason Dahl did it on purpose so that he would alert air traffic controllers. You see what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and
it's just all over the place, bro.
It's never gonna. The rabbit hole is so deep with this entire thing that you could just basically take the official story and just go, you know what, just stay over there and play by yourself, because basically that thing doesn't exist. Anything that they tell you does not exist. But they'll give it a fancy name. They'll bring in all these so-called experts that's on their payroll, and they'll tell you, don't question it. We've already looked into it.
So, getting back to the passenger and crew phone calls, 10 passengers and 2 crew members were able to connect, providing information to family, friends, and others on the ground. Tom Burnett made several phone calls to his wife, Dina, beginning at 9:30 from rows 24 and 25, though he was assigned a seat in row 4. Burnett explained on the plane that the plane had been hijacked by men claiming to have a bomb. Sorry. He also said a passenger had been stabbed with a knife, and he believed that the bomb threat was a ruse to control the passengers. Burnett said the stabbed passenger was dead, having failed to exhibit signs of a pulse. It is also believed that passenger Mark Rothenberg was the victim. Rothenberg was the only first-class passenger who did not make a phone call after the hijacking. Rothenberg was seated in 5B, and Halnazi sat directly behind him in 6B. Burnett's wife informed of the attacks of the World Trade Center. He replied that the hijackers were talking about crashing the plane. "Oh my God, it's a suicide mission." He began asking for her for information about the attacks, interrupting her from time to time to tell other passengers nearby what she was saying. Then he hung up. In his next call, Dina informed Burnett of the attack on the Pentagon. Burnett related this to the other passengers and told Dina that he had a group of other passengers who were putting together a plan to retake the plane. First of all, if you're putting together a plan, why would you say that online or on the phone so that the attackers can hear you? We are putting together a plan so we can retake this plane. Why would you sit there and broadcast that out? You know? So he ended last call by saying, "Don't worry, we're going to do something." And an unknown flight attendant attempted to contact the United Airlines maintenance facility at 9:32. The call lasted 95 seconds but was not received, as it may have been in queue. Flight attendant Sandra Bradshaw called the maintenance facility at 9:35 from row 33. She reported the flight had been hijacked by men with knives who were in the cabin and flight deck and had stabbed another flight attendant, possibly Debbie Welsh. It goes on there. You have at least 3 or 4 more phone calls. But if I'm remembering correctly and hearing the... I'm sorry. I keep hitting the desk. If I remember correctly, hearing the actual phone calls, it's not what was basically said. Basically was said in the text form, but if you listen to them, they sound weird.
The problem with the whole thing is the text messages. Phone calls from planes. The technology didn't exist at that point in time.
Well, so like the audio sounded distorted or something?
No, it just didn't exist. You couldn't do it because the cell towers couldn't keep up with a moving plane. Now they can. They couldn't at that time. That's a fact.
Yeah, but didn't the planes have like built-in phones or something?
You could, yes, because they were. It was a different. It wasn't a cell phone. It was done on radio frequencies, and you can call
like a landline type of thing.
Exactly.
But for
this
airplanes.
was a completely different thing, and that's. You could say all that all you want.
So you're saying, so you're telling me that these people made phone calls from cell phones, not the airplane telephone.
Yes, from cell phones.
Didn't happen.
Now, again, I just have to read a rebuttal for that because that's what we do. So someone said, again, this is from Quora, I believe it's the question website, and someone asked, how is it possible for the people of Flight 93 to have used their cell phones? Now, this is answered 5 years ago, and then it's answered by someone anonymous.
Of course.
They said there are several things to remember. The first is that GTE airphone systems were common then. Of the 37 phone calls placed on from Flight 93, 35 were placed on the airphone system. This was traceable not only to the particular aircraft, but to a specific phone in a specific row on the aircraft. In 2001, a dominant but declining cell phone system was analog AMPS system at 850 megahertz with up to 3 watts transmission power on the mobile side. One feature of the AMPS system was far greater range than today's digital systems. The range of the ground was up to 40. The range on the ground was up to 40 kilometers. In an aircraft, the range was enhanced. Digital cell systems can detect if your cell phone seems to be in an aircraft, and will restrict your use of the cell phone in order to avoid cascading interference with cell phones on the ground. In 2001, this block did not exist for AMP systems. For those reasons, the airphone system and the AMP system, the cell phone calls were possible from Flight 93, but would not be possible today.
So technology went backwards, or something?
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. That's the most ass backwards thing I've ever heard in my life.
Technology went backwards.
So when he puts his name to it, with this nice long explanation, put your name to it. Because you're full of shit.
That doesn't make any type of sense, bro. So you trying to tell me that an airplane? I'm just still trying to fathom all this shit, wrap my head around what he just said, because that's just stupid. It's stupid.
Well, apparently, like they're saying, they weren't, apparently, this guy's saying they're not made from cell phones. They basically use the airphones.
Okay.
Which is not like actual cell phone use, like regular flip phones that basically at that time would be flip phones.
Well, they had the bricks.
Yeah, and the bricks. Well, I mean, 2001 is still bricks.
They were thick brick. They were thin bricks.
Kind of.
It wasn't flip phones yet?
There was very little.
Nokia, right?
Nokia.
It would be Nokia.
Yeah, there was very little.
They say they wasn't using regular cell phones that we know. They were using the phones on the actual planes itself.
That would make a lot more sense for the time.
But my problem is that if you listen to these phone calls, most of the time on all the phone calls, the person talking on the phone would say their full name.
Exactly. One guy called his mother, say, "Hi, Ma. I forgot who it was. I'm just going to make up a name. Hi, Ma. I'm Billy Schwartz." Well, how many times you talk to your mother and say, I'm Billy Schwartz? I call my mother and say, hey, Mother, how you doing?
Hey, Ma.
I don't even introduce myself. She'll fucking know who I am. It doesn't make sense. Okay? None of it makes a fucking lick of sense. It makes it for a nice TV movie at, 2 o'clock in the morning, but nothing else.
I cried.
Now, I think we should, I don't know. You want to just get on to the latter part here? Because we are running into almost 2 hours.
Yeah, that's fine. This guy turned around and he had an answer to that. He goes, it wasn't possible. The first cell phone call. It was
impossible?
It wasn't possible.
It wasn't possible.
He goes, the first cell phone call ever made on a commercial airplane was in 2004 by Qualcomm. And it had a lot of problems, dropped calls mostly. And then he put Qualcomm demos in flight cell phone service to add to it. And then he goes, and because some people are too ignorant to understand this, here's an in-depth article on the above explaining exactly why cell phone calls weren't a thing in 2001. And then he puts American Airlines and Qualcomm complete test flight to evaluate in-cabin mobile phone use. He goes, to make things even worse for the ignorant, the real United 93 never crashed. It landed in Washington, D.C. at 10:30 a.m. I know there's going to be some people who don't believe that because in their mind, there's just no way the habitual lying, murdering government would lie about something like that. So we'll just look at real evidence. And then he goes, the government's official story was that the United 93 left Newark from Newark Liberty on Tuesday at 8:43, and then around 10:05, Flight 93 crashed into this field in Pennsylvania, leaving nothing but the hole you see here. Yes, this is an actual photo of the alleged crash site, and then he shows the crash site. He goes, as you can see, there is no trace of bodies, no luggage, no plane, no parts.
I like this guy.
He goes, not even trash. He goes, just a hole and some burnt trees. How can that be? Could it be that the real United 93 didn't crash? If a plane crashed, it would be something that looked like this. And then he shows an edited photo of a plane crash. With clothes, luggage, bodies, and a plane scattered everywhere. That's just a fact. Look at the above, then look back down at this. He goes, clearly a plane named United 93 did, in fact, leave Newark, New Jersey from the Newark Liberty International Airport on Tuesday, September 11, 2001, at 8:43. But the airline's own data shows that United 93 landed in Washington, D.C. at Reagan National Airport on Tuesday, September 11th, 2001 at 10:28 a.m. Could there be two planes with the exact same name parked at the exact same airport, leaving the exact same time? Or could that be why that there was just an empty hole in the field? And then he goes, see below, landed over 18 years ago, and the same type of data exists for all three other flights, which shows they never crashed. Just look up the flight history of yourself. And then he shows a picture of a website, so it's Flight Aware, and it says United 93 leaving Newark Tuesday, September 11th at 8:43 a.m., and it says landed over 18 years ago, and it's straight from, it shows flight path. It was a straight flight from Newark Airport to Washington, D.C.
Shout out to that person who put that.
So, and then he has the same thing for American Airlines 11, and that was really it.
American Airlines was not 11. United was 11. American Airlines was 175 and 77.
Then
shout out to that guy, bro.
Then this is wrong then because this has the flight awareness of American Airlines 11.
Never mind to the shout out.
Then it's either he completely
bombed it or
maybe American Airlines flight 11.
But on the same day,
wherever it's not flight 11, I don't know.
Shout out to him for his effort and the hustle. I'm with it.
But
shout out to you.
The lie, United 93 was hijacked and crashed in a field. The truth, 93 landed safely in Washington, D.C.
Time out. I am actually incorrect here. I want to apologize. American Airlines flight 11. He's correct.
So he's correct.
Yeah.
And again, it shows.
Shout out to you.
Both
one more time.
It shows both flight paths. And again, can you just look this website up real quick, Josh? Just go on to flightaware.com. If we can actually see it. If they have taken this down and taken both these flights down, then we know, something.
Take photos. Take photos.
Something's very.
Take photos. Take photo. All of you. Take photos. Screenshot. All that.
Yeah, FlightAware is an actual website.
Can you search up both United 93?
United 93. Okay. Popped up. UAL 93.
From Newark? Oh, no. That's the wrong one.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me.
I would search can you search like a date or an advanced?
It says sure. You can search by route.
From Newark to Washington, D.C. Because if this comes up, I wish we could actually look at, if I could actually record what he's searching up right here.
Don't know how.
Because that would be a really... And I'm sorry for going deeper into this, but I like doing... Yeah, it's not coming up the same way, right?
Yeah, it's not.
But...
Unless you need to put something specific.
Yeah, so...
You might have to put down the actual,
anywho.
Aircraft.
But... That's amazing. So shout out to this guy. I want to do more research on this guy. His name is Israel Hidashi. It was updated 9 months ago, and he has he has answered 338 answers, and almost 580,000 people.
To track that using just Flight 93 is not going to work. You're going to go to the tail number.
Oh, the tail number.
Like that. Yeah, you can get that. You can find that.
Tail number Flight 93.
Yeah. So, anywho, we're gonna take a short little break, and then we're gonna go into, basically. I mean, obviously, the question has been answered by us. We're just gonna go into our final
thoughts.
Yeah, just hang out for 10 more minutes, folks.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Anthony from Multimedia Mafia. If you love what we do and you want to know more about us, head on over to greenarrowmedia.org. On there, you're going to find links to both Multimedia Mafia show and our sister show, Is This Real?, which is all about conspiracies and aliens and all sorts of wonderful stuff like that. If you want to support us, head on over to our merch page where you can buy a hat or a mug. We have lots of different designs and cool colors. If you want to meet us, we got pictures up there. We have a little biography, and you can even stream the show right through the website. And hey, don't forget to check out our YouTube link, where you can check out all the filming that we do right on our YouTube page. Check us out, greenarrowmedia.org.
And we are back from our break, and now we are going to finally close out this episode. And again, I apologize for it being so long. It's just there's so much to cover with 9/11, and it's so hard not to sit here and just completely go deep into...
He said deep.
Shut up. Deep into the actual conspiracies and talking about it, and again, just so many questions about the day. And again, I want you guys to sit here and listen to us and then respond to us. I want your responses. I want your reactions. I want to hear what your opinions are.
Joey wants you guys. He wants all of you.
But to close out this episode, we're just going to go through our final thoughts. And as I said before, Mr. West, I'm going to take your first basically introduction to this episode about Bush to 9/11. I'm going to tell you something. Bush had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Obviously, if he has a children's book upside down.
Right. That man, you know who this was all orchestrated by? And I think Dad can back me up here.
The CIA.
Dick fucking Cheney.
I can't say for sure, but I can tell you one thing. He definitely had his hands on the button somewhere along the line.
Dick Cheney?
In my opinion.
Yeah, the vice president.
Okay.
The guy who shot his friend during a hunting accident.
The quail accident or whatever it was.
Oh, wait.
Oh, look, a quail.
Okay. That's my neck.
Yeah. So it had nothing. Bush is too dumb to even do any of this shit.
Bush was too busy trying not to choke on pretzels,
and read a book upside down.
And getting shoes flown at him, too. But that was later on in life, though.
But yeah, so I mean, for my final thought too, just to add back to a little bit more of the Pennsylvania area, there were reports of hearing fighter jets in the area also. There was a lot of reports of hearing fighter jets in the area, low fighter jets and a big crash and stuff like that. But again,
well, there was a pilot that was her name was Heather, nicknamed Lucky Penny, Penneey, something like that.
It's Penny.
Penny, yeah. So she was ordered to shoot down one of the hijacked planes
supposedly
at that time. Who? Let me see. I just had who ordered it.
So it would probably be, but there's so many things to cover for 9/11, and again, this is just us hitting the tip of the iceberg, and to deal with all the backlash afterwards. This is going to be the 20th anniversary coming up of 9/11 now, and there's just so many things that it's commonplace now for people, just like you did, just to scream Bush did 9/11, because it's more of a joke now than anything like that for people to sit there. But
and then the steel beams with the
yeah, to sit there and people like, oh, we know 9/11 was conspiracy. We'll sit there and still be like, well, but this, that, and the other thing. But if people only knew half of the shit that happened, they again, they wouldn't believe it. So that's my final thoughts on that. I'll shoot over to Josh because you didn't talk a lot tonight. So I'll shoot over to you and get your final thoughts, Mr. Quiet Man.
First off, let me start by saying it is a huge tragedy. It is unfortunate. A lot of lives were lost. In my opinion, I don't think they should have been lost, because if you look at everything technically I've learned today, thanks Dad, things like the one flight landing in Connecticut and then coming back around, I thought it was kind of like a
Pennsylvania,
straight shot.
Cleveland,
sorry. Going to Cleveland and then landing and then coming back and then crashing, allegedly. Something I didn't know about. It's I can say what I said a couple episodes. It's terrifying to know that we have a government that may get away with these things and no one questions it. It seems like there's so many people that are complacent, and it's more of a misdirection thing. Like I said, it is unfortunate loss of life. They shouldn't have lost their lives for anything, especially with the government being in control. And if they did this on purpose, it's even worse. So that's why I said, first things first, rest in peace to everyone who did lose their lives on that day, on the airplanes, inside the towers, in Pennsylvania, in the Pentagon, wherever else it may be. But for everyone who listens to us and actually may think or may like what we do, you got to ask yourself the questions, because like I just said, even I learned a thing or two tonight. Why is there so many questions? It seems like it's a diversion thing where they only want you to remember the loss of life. They don't want you to remember anything else, which is a horrible aspect, especially from someone like me who studied the government for a good amount of time and knows full well what they're capable of and how they're so willing to just lie straight to your face, and you'll be like, okay, and just turn around and do whatever. It's to me, it's a scary thing. It really is. And I hope there are people out there that would question it. And I hope that maybe someday there will be a change that us as a people, as a nation, can come together and fix it, to be honest.
I agree with you. All right, so we're going to go to West, and then I have a question for you, Dad, before you get into yours. Because I think you can explain a lot better than we can. Wes, your final thoughts on this? Besides Bush did 9/11, do not say it.
Wes.
It sucked. I mean, I can't say anything else. That's all what I was going to say. Bush did 9/11.
Motherfucker. All right, Dad, before you get into your final remarks, my question for you is, what would be the purpose of doing something like this?
Iraq War.
I said that.
This is like the second.
I am your father.
This is like the second week in a row that you've asked me the question, and he answered it with exactly what it was I was going to say, and not just the Iraq War. I'm going to answer the question, and it's going to lead right into my final thoughts.
All right.
On the cusp of 9/11, we went into what they call the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act basically was done in the middle of the night when no one else was around. It was an incredibly long bill that nobody read. It was somehow passed real quick. And in that bill, your basic freedoms started to erode. Okay, that's when you had to show your driver's license, and that's when you had, your everything became tighter. You couldn't do your freedoms were being taken from you slowly. And when your freedoms are being taken from you, and again, because of they're trying to make you say, they're telling you that we'll protect you, but we have to know who you're talking to. The NSA knows exactly what you're talking, knows exactly what you're saying. They monitor every phone call. That's an invasion of my privacy. But they'll tell you it doesn't happen, but it does. The government is listening. Alexa listens through Amazon. Okay.
Siri's always listening.
Siri is listening. You have microphones in your cable boxes now. That's a fact. It's basically they've got what they wanted all along. It gave them the permission to be the nanny state. It gave them the permission to understand that nothing gets done without them. Now, when I say them, you can fill in anybody you want. The upper 1%, the billionaires, the people running our government, basically the Bilderbergers, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them.
Bilderbergers?
The Illuminati.
Okay. We'll get into Bilderberg in part 2 of this season. That's the short end of the answer. The long end of the answer would be we now have a country that basically is given their opinion. Okay, no matter what side of the aisle you fall on, you're going to watch the news according to what you believe. What we do in this country is the news lies to us. All of the news. They tell you what they want you to hear. Okay? And it's up to your dumb ass to believe it without doing your own homework. If you can sit there and you can go logically think about the events of that day and what bullshit that they were feeding you, then you're a fool. And they're counting on you to be a fool. They're counting on you to just sit there and say, I'm going to put on all these, we're going to make TV the greatest thing. You have so many streaming packages now. You're constantly distracted by what's out there that you don't know what's really going on. And that's the problem in this country. And that's the problem with 9/11. Because you can analyze everything, and just because they put an official stamp on it, doesn't mean it's true. I believe that that's exactly the case here. I believe that somehow, somewhere, our government orchestrated this entire event.
At the cost of innocent lives.
Lives don't mean anything when you're trying to take control of people. Because at that point, their lives are meaningless. Look what just happened now in Afghanistan. Our president, sworn to protect our citizens, left 10% behind. Doesn't matter. They could have got out. They should have got out. They didn't get out because they didn't want to. It's always somebody else's fault, never theirs. Okay, so I don't want to go into an hour-long diatribe, and I could. I literally could. In summary, I believe that this was orchestrated by the upper 1% of our country, And I disagree with Eric 100%. I don't believe George Bush had anything to do with this.
It's just
George Bush was basically told this is going on because you could never give him the truth because he would blurt it right out. You would know who did it, when they did it, and whatever. But it gave him a chance to grandstand because that's what he did. After all, George Bush is the same guy who owned the Texas Rangers and traded Sammy Sosa. I don't have to say any more than that. Okay, so I do believe this was orchestrated. I do believe it was orchestrated to take your freedoms slowly because in the 20 years since this happened, every year something more happens. Things are happening more and more and more. You just got to be smart enough to know where to look. And don't ever be afraid to go out there and say to people, this is what I believe is happening. Because you don't have to have fact to believe something. All right, but you do have to be able to show somebody, look at what's going on. Now, it might not be exactly what I say, but there's something odd here. And the minute you don't want to say it because of ridicule, you're a fool. So I guess what I'm saying is, do your own homework. Don't be stupid. Don't be preached to. And don't have anybody tell you what you see, because they will. And that's exactly what happened on 9/11. And that's exactly what happened with JFK. They're telling you what you saw, even though you saw it. That's all I got to say.
All right. So I think that will conclude our 9/11 special. And it was a special. You want to add something?
Can I just add to anybody out there that is going to be doing their own research? I would highly suggest that if you're not in the United States, to change your settings to your location on your whatever browser you're using outside of this country, because they have taken down a lot of information for censoring purposes. So. If you wanna do some real research, I would say change your location to another country, somewhere in Europe, somewhere other than here, because they will. It does. There's a lot of websites and a lot of stuff that is being taken down by the second, by the day.
Yes,
and it's just getting worse. And it's just getting
across
worse
the board for anything that we do.
Yeah, they're trying to take. They're honestly really trying to take, like what Pop was saying, like the Patriot Act really started the taking away of freedoms, because then after that, like he was just saying, everything's tapped into. It's like slowly trying to strip away the First Amendment right, and then the whole gun control thing on top of it too. It's
that
like
word terrorism really shut people up after 2001. Nobody was worried about terrorists.
Well, the racism towards the Middle Eastern people just skyrocketed right after that, bro. Like,
you know
skyrocketed, skyrocketed.
The funny part about it, and I don't want to keep getting longer with this, but the funny part about it is you're talking, we are now the year 2021, which is, again, like I said, we're going to have the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 events. And we're still talking about a war that we have not, well, apparently are just leaving now, 20 years later. And it's funny how what's happening now really started building up towards the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Like, you didn't hear from the Taliban a year ago. You didn't hear from the Taliban 6 months ago. All of a sudden, within the last 2 months, Taliban has taken over, or Al-Qaeda, whatever the fuck you want to call them. They have taken over Afghanistan. They're doing this, they're doing that, all around the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
You know what's really funny about that? That's been happening for fucking years. And nobody wanted to say anything about that, or nobody gave a fuck about shit like that, bro.
It has, and at the same time, our troops are there to crush it when it did, or at least when it was tried to attempt. As soon as we pull our troops out, this all happens around the same time. Now, again, you want to take something like that, and it's just like with any tragic event, you want to look past it, and you want to dig deeper into what's happening and what bills are trying to pass. And basically always, whenever we talk about something, always look deeper into something. Always look past it. Always look what's going on behind the scenes, because that's what they're trying to distract you with. And I'll leave the episode with that. So, good night, guys. Say good night, everybody.
Oyatsumi.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We had a blast tonight. And do your own research. And don't ever let anyone tell you what you're looking at.
Konnichiwa, bitches. It's Ryu West speaking. If you want to find out more about the Is This Real podcast, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/isthisrealpc, or on Twitter at isthisrealpc, or on Instagram at isthisrealpodcast, all one word.